Chapter 1. Hook, the Blackout begins. October 25th, 2025. 3I Atlas vanishes. Stepping behind the sun. An ordinary astronomical event, but what happens over the next 4 days leading to perihelion is anything but ordinary. Avi Loeb, a Harvard professor, has issued a warning. This is a perfect window to do something that no one can see. 96 hours of absolute silence. When the sun obscures it, no telescope on Earth can track it. Enough time to execute a reverse Oberth maneuver, a flight maneuver to decelerate, remain, and alter trajectory. But NASA knows this. On September 15th, the United States activates SCI-sensitive compartmented information. On the same day, IAWN, International Asteroid Warning Network, activates Planetary Defense Protocol for the first time in history. This protocol is applied not to an asteroid, but to a comet. Why? If 3I Atlas is merely an ordinary comet, why activate Planetary Defense Protocol, a system designed solely for extinction-level planetary threats?
Delta V anomaly.
A memo from JPL leaked last week reads, potential non-gravitational maneuver detected. Recommend elevation to scenario orange. Scenario orange. Code for confirmed extraterrestrial technology. While the sun conceals all, 3 Atlas may be executing something no one dares speak aloud. A mysterious Oberth maneuver. A declaration. We are not passing through, we are arriving. Chapter 2. Context and characters. Who knows the truth? Avi Loeb is not a shadowy figure. He is a professor of astronomy at Harvard University, formerly director of that institution's Center for Astrophysics. A solid reputation in the scientific world. But since 2020, when he published the theory that Oumuamua might be an interstellar spacecraft, everything changed. Colleagues called him a crank. Harvard administrators remained silent. Scientific journals rejected his papers. Yet Loeb did not stop. He continued to write, to speak, to warn. In 2021, Loeb founded the Galileo Project, an independent initiative outside NASA, outside ESA, outside government agencies. Its goal was unambiguous: to search for evidence of extraterrestrial technology, not through traditional telescopes, but through instruments Loeb designed himself. Multispectral cameras, magnetic sensors, cryogenic detectors. Approximately 100 such devices were deployed worldwide. Most major universities hosted one. And since September, they all pointed toward 3I Atlas. Then, in October 2025, when 3I Atlas appeared exhibiting physical anomalies unexplainable by natural comets, Loeb was the first to speak out. On his blog, October 22nd, he listed 8 anomalies. Not 1, not 2, but 8. Each a brick in the architecture of extraterrestrial technology. Anti-comet tail, nickel-iron anomaly, water abundance of 0.04% lower than any comet ever measured. But not all scientists agreed. Jason Wright, an astronomer from Penn State University, publicly criticized Loeb. He said Loeb bypassed peer review. He said 3I Atlas's spectrum was normal. He said it was simply a comet, and natural explanations always take precedence over fantastic hypotheses. That was basic science, Wright argued. But then, on October 20th, 2 days before Loeb published his list of 8 anomalies, Wright withdrew from the conversation. No rebuttal, no debate, only silence. It was strange. Nevertheless, Loeb was not alone in monitoring 3I Atlas. A global network existed. Atlas Asteroid, Terrestrial Impact. Last alert system consists of 4 automated observation stations positioned in Hawaii, Chile, South Africa, and Australia. They operate 24/7, scanning the sky for dangerous objects. Atlas never sleeps. And since 3I Atlas's detection in September, Atlas had recorded every movement, every pixel, every luminosity shift, every orbital adjustment. This data was public. ESA, the European Space Agency, had released all its images. Keck Observatory in Hawaii shared spectral data. VLT, the Very Large Telescope in Chile, provided the most detailed photographs. Every European scientific agency was transparent, publishing all data to public databases, but NASA was not. The United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the world's largest space organization, had released not a single image from Mars Orbiter HiRISE, one of the most powerful telescopes in space. HiRISE captured 3I Atlas on October 3rd with the highest resolution of any instrument on Earth. Yet that image remained in a classified vault. When journalists asked, NASA replied, "We are processing the data." 4 weeks had passed. 4 weeks to process. Why? IAWN, the International Asteroid Warning Network, was founded in 1992 following the Tunguska event. Its mission: to warn of threats from space. In 33 years of operation, 33 years, it had never activated Planetary Defense Protocol for any comet. This protocol was reserved for asteroids, capable of impacting Earth with energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. But 3I Atlas was not an asteroid. It was a comet. Comets do not cause impacts. They merely pass through. Unless it was not a comet. On October 27th, IAWN released a brief statement. They would conduct a global observation campaign from October 27th, 2025 through January 27th, 2026, 3 continuous months. More than 80 telescopes worldwide were activated. The Galileo Project system, Loeb's independent initiative, began operating at all its sites. For the first time in history, independent projects and government agencies worked together. With no negotiations disclosed publicly, what did this mean? Chapter 3, Evidence and Proof, the Physics of Impossibility. The anomalies began from day 1. On September 9th, when 3I Atlas was first detected by the Atlas system in Hawaii, it shined 3 times brighter than predicted. A typical comet brightens gradually as it approaches the sun, a process called outgassing, when the outer ice layers begin to sublimate. But 3I Atlas blazed immediately, with no transition phase. It was like a light bulb, switched on by a circuit breaker, not a gradual fade in. On July 3rd, Keck Observatory in Hawaii, one of the most powerful telescopes on Earth, captured the spectrum of 3I Atlas. This spectrum revealed characteristic absorption lines of various elements. Each element, hydrogen, carbon, water, ammonia, possesses a unique spectroscopic signature. When light from an object passes through these elements, it creates dark lines at specific positions on the spectrum. Astronomers can read these lines like a DNA barcode. But 3I Atlas's spectrum matched no comet in any database. ESA, the European Space Agency, issued an official statement. The spectrum was anomalous. The word anomalous in an astronomer's vocabulary does not mean interesting. It means we do not know what it is. But there was more. On July 21st, Hubble, the most famous space telescope in the world, photographed 3I Atlas at high resolution. What was observed was a tail of the object, a phenomenon common in comets. But the direction of this tail was wrong. Normal comets possess tails pointing away from the sun, an effect caused by solar radiation pressure. Yet 3I Atlas possessed an anti-comet tail, a tail pointing toward the sun. This was rare. Moreover, no anti-comet tail had ever been recorded on any comet in 200 years of modern observation. Why would a comet swim backward against radiation pressure? The only theory explaining this phenomenon was it was not a natural comet. An object with the ability to modulate its shape, or generate its own propulsive energy, could produce a reaction counter to radiation pressure. But there was greater evidence still. On August 15th, the Very Large Telescope, VLT, in Chile, one of the most powerful spectrographic instruments on Earth, captured a detailed spectrum of 3I Atlas. The results astonished the scientific community. Within this spectrum lay the presence of nickel tetracarbonyl, a chemical compound existing only under artificial metallurgical conditions. This was not a natural residue from planetary formation. This was an industrial product. Moreover, the nickel-iron NeFeF ratio in 3I Atlas measured 1/0.3, a ratio never found on any meteorite or comet. Typical comets possess a nickel-iron ratio around 1:2. Yet 3I Atlas matched the ratios of alloys created by human beings, materials used in aerospace industry. A specialist from Caltech who wished to remain anonymous sent an unpublished email to Loeb. These ratios cannot be naturally produced. This is a signature of technological manufacture. That email now rested in Loeb's hands, but it was never published in mainstream scientific journals. Why? On October 3rd, Mars orbiter HiRISE photographed 3I Atlas from Martian orbit. This was the highest resolution image ever captured. What NASA personnel observed in those photographs, they knew, but they shared it with no one. Only 1 minute of one image was sent to ESA. A management error, perhaps. In that minute, one could discern something resembling a structure, a defined shape, not the indistinct mass of a typical comet. But that image was quickly withdrawn. The water content within 3I Atlas measured 0.04% lower than any comet ever measured. A typical comet contains roughly 4–8% water. Yet 3I Atlas, supposedly an icy comet, possessed virtually no water. If it contained no water, it could not be a comet. Comets are dirty snowballs composed of ice and dust. Remove the water, and you no longer have a comet. you have something else. The orbit of 3I Atlas is hyperbolic. It will exit the solar system after passing perihelion. But there exists a peculiar detail. This orbit aligns precisely 5 degrees with the ecliptic plane, Earth's orbital plane. The probability that a random comet from outside the solar system would possess such an aligned orbit is less than 0.2%. It is like flipping a coin and having it land standing on its edge. Not impossible, but it should not occur unless for a specific reason. A reason such as it was oriented this way intentionally. On October 22nd, Avi Loeb released his list. 8 anomalies: anti-comet tail, nickel tetracarbonyl, unnatural Phi-Ni ratio, near zero water content, aligned orbit, instantaneous brightness, non-matching spectrum, hidden high-rise imagery. Altogether, Loeb wrote, pointed to a single conclusion. 3I Atlas is not a comet. It is technology. Yet, not all scientists accepted this. Some argued each phenomenon could be separately explained by natural law. However, when all these phenomena occur simultaneously, not 1, not 2, but 8, the probability of coincidence begins to vanish. And when you eliminate all impossibilities, you must accept what remains, however impossible it seems. Extraterrestrial technology entering our solar system. Chapter 4, Central Hypothesis and Binary Test. The Perihelion Gambit. If 3I Atlas were merely a natural comet, it would accelerate as it approached the Sun. That is fundamental physics. When an object falls into a stronger gravitational field, it speeds up. Yet data from ATLAS, Keck, and VLT all indicated one fact. 3I Atlas was decelerating. Not accelerating, decelerating. Avi Loeb termed this a reverse Oberth maneuver, a flight maneuver only spacecraft with sufficient propulsion could execute. The Oberth maneuver is a technique used by space explorers. If you wish to alter an object's trajectory, the most efficient approach is to fire engines when nearest to a gravity source. Yet a reverse Oberth maneuver is the opposite. You decelerate at closest approach to the Sun, avoiding collision, instead remaining within the solar system. The energy 3I Atlas would receive at perihelion. The point of closest approach is 33 gigawatts. That equals the energy output of a modern nuclear power plant. If an object could convert that energy into thrust via an ion engine or a solar sail or any advanced technology, it would possess sufficient force to alter its own trajectory. It would have enough power to decelerate from escape velocity to bound or orbit. That is the difference between leaving the solar system forever and remaining to wait. Loeb's calculations showed that to execute such an orbital modification, an object would require a v, delta v, of approximately 2.6 kilometers. Delta v is a concept in orbital mechanics, the total change in velocity necessary to execute an orbital maneuver. With 33 gigawatts of energy at hand, achieving 2.6 kilometers is entirely feasible. But if 3I Atlas were truly decelerating, if it were truly altering its orbit, what would that mean? It would mean it is not a random object from outside the system. It would mean it possesses intention. It would mean it is choosing to remain. And when a sophisticated object from beyond our world chooses to stay rather than depart, it typically has a reason. Binary test. If natural versus if technology below is a comparison table, if 3I Atlas were merely a natural comet, what we would expect to observe versus what we actually observe. Looking at this table, what is the probability all these signs occur randomly on a natural comet? It is not a number. It is near zero. Statisticians would call this a tail risk, an event so extraordinarily rare, its probability approaches zero. But when you multiply all these probabilities together, probability of anti-comet tail, 1%, multiplied by probability of nickel tetracarbonyl, 0.1%, multiplied by probability of orbital alignment, 0.2%. You reach a number so small it approaches absolute zero. And when the probability of an event approaches zero, yet it still occurs, you must consider the possibility that it is not coincidence. It is design. Central hypothesis: the mothership and microprobes. Avi Loeb possesses a specific hypothesis. It is not that 3I Atlas will act alone. Rather, it is a mothership, a large primary spacecraft, likely releasing a constellation of microprobes, smaller vessels capable of independent navigation. These microprobes will be deployed during the 4-day blackout window, when the sun obscures all observations. Why? Because once released into space, they become nearly unobservable. They will be too small, too dark. They will be mere specks of dust in an ocean of stars. Yet once positioned on different trajectories, some penetrating deeper into the solar system, some redirecting toward Earth, they will be capable of executing their missions. The Earth approach window, the time frame during which an object from perihelion could reach Earth by exploiting gravitational capture, opens on November 25th, 2025. It closes on December 10th, only 15 days. Yet that is sufficient. And even should nothing occur, even absent microprobes, absent attack, absent intervention, the mere existence of extraterrestrial technology within our solar system would be a game-changing event. It would alter everything. It would reshape politics, religion, science, economics, all of it. And if the United States government knows this, if NASA knows this, then their silence is not accidental. It is intentional. Chapter 5. Counter-argument and mainstream perspective. Science versus suspicion. Jason Wright is not a figure without credibility. He is an astronomer from Penn State University, an expert in the search for extraterrestrial technology. He has published dozens of peer-reviewed papers. He is part of the mainstream scientific community, and on October 20th, he entered a public debate with Avi Loeb concerning 3I Atlas. Wright stated, "It looks like a comet. It does comet things." Wright's argument was simple, grounded in Occam's razor, a philosophical principle asserting that simpler explanations are typically more correct. If 3I Atlas could be explained by natural phenomena, why resort to explanations involving extraterrestrial technology? Wright pointed out that anti-comet tails, pointing toward the sun, had been observed before. Comet Arend-Roland in 1957 possessed an anti-comet tail. Comet Bennett in 1970 also displayed one. These phenomena were not evidence of technology. They were merely rare anomalies that science had learned to explain. Regarding nickel tetracarbonyl, the chemical compound said to exist only under industrial conditions. Wright argued it could also occur naturally, under special circumstances. The universe is a strange place. Chemical reactions occur in locations where humans have never observed them on Earth. Regarding low water content, merely 0.04% instead of 4.8%, Wright noted that comets display significant diversity. Some comets are drier than others. Perhaps 3I Atlas was one of them, a dry comet. That did not prove it was technology. And regarding orbital calculations, the alleged deceleration, Wright pointed out that mathematical models could be flawed. Orbital predictions rest on assumptions about mass, about shape, about how an object reflects sunlight. If any single assumption proved incorrect, the predicted orbit would also be incorrect. NASA released an official statement. It looks like a comet. It does comet things. We see no evidence suggesting it is anomalous in any manner. Yet when journalists asked NASA, why not release the high-rise images, they only responded, "We are processing the data." 4 weeks had elapsed. 4 weeks to process. ESA adopted a different perspective. ESA did not say 3I Atlas was a comet. ESA did not say it was technology. ESA only stated, its spectrum is anomalous. We will continue observing. That was prudent. That was cautious. That was science. Alternative hypothesis. Co- and sublimation. A natural explanation proposed by mainstream astronomers was early-stage CO and CO sublimation activity. Sublimation is the process whereby a solid, such as ice, transitions directly to gas without passing through a liquid phase. At vast distances from the Sun, at approximately 4 AU, astronomical units, carbon dioxide ice on a comet's surface could begin to evaporate. When this occurs, it creates a jet, a stream of gas ejected from the surface. These jets could be the source of early activity. They could explain sudden brightness increase. They could also explain deceleration if jets were expelled at specific angles. They could produce reactive force upon the trajectory. Hale-Bopp, a famous comet observed in 1997, displayed early activity. It grew brighter than predicted long before approaching the Sun. Astronomers at that time were equally perplexed, yet they eventually realized it was merely CO sublimation. So why not the same process occurring with 3I Atlas? That was a fair question. That was a reasonable explanation. Yet it did not account for everything. It did not explain nickel tetracarbonyl. It did not explain the unusual Faney ratio. It did not explain the aligned orbit. And it did not explain NASA's silence. The gray zone, where most intelligent people exist. A specialist from Caltech who wished to remain anonymous stated, "Code-driven models explain many things, but not everything." This was the key, not that natural models were wrong, only that they were incomplete. They explained 80–90% of what we observed. But the remaining 10–20%, the facts that did not fit, remained unexplained. In science, when you possess unexplained facts, you possess 3 options. First, ignore them, pretend not to see them. This is not science. Second, seek alternative natural explanations. This is what Wright and NASA were doing. They were trying. Yet after 4 weeks, they had not found something entirely convincing. Third, consider alternative explanations, including those initially seeming implausible. This is what Loeb was doing. The mainstream scientific community had chosen options 1 or 2, but Loeb chose option 3. And for that reason, Loeb was regarded as a crank by those selecting options 1 or 2. The self-challenge question. Yet here is a challenge question for oneself. If you were NASA director and you possessed all the data, including HiRISE, what would you conclude? Would you state it is a comet, despite all evidence indicating otherwise? Or would you state we must consider all possibilities? And if you selected the second option, if you said we must consider all possibilities, what would you say publicly? Could you say we remain uncertain? Or must you state it is a comet?
They locked it.
Because if you did not, the entire world would awaken tomorrow in terror. That might explain the silence. Chapter 6 Twist: Conspiracy Linkage. The protocol nobody talks about. On September 15th, 3 weeks before Avi Loeb published his list of 8 anomalies, an event occurred that no one knew about, or at least no one disclosed. NASA activated SCI. SCI stands for Sensitive Compartmented Information, the highest classification level within the United States government.
It was never meant to be read.
SCI designation is not a routine decision. It is not employed for ordinary scientific projects. It is employed when government believes citizens must not know certain information, when disclosure would cause damage to national defense or national security. It has never been employed for a comet. That same day, IAWN, the global network, established to warn of threats from space-activated Planetary Defense Protocol. IAWN was founded in 1992 following the Tunguska event. Its purpose was to warn of cosmic threats. In 33 years of operation, 33 years, it had never activated this protocol for any comet. This protocol activates only when there exists risk of Earth impact with energy equivalent to 1 megaton TNT or greater. That is the standard for extinction-level planetary threat. But 3I Atlas was not an impact risk. It was not approaching Earth. It would simply pass by, unless it was not simply passing by. If 3I Atlas truly altered its trajectory, if it truly decelerated, then perhaps it would not pass by. It could redirect toward Earth, or it could release microprobes that would redirect toward Earth. In either scenario, the threat would be real. Yet why would NASA activate SCI if it were merely
No unusual findings from Atlas mission.
the Brookings Report? 1961, a historical document exists that few know about. It is called the Brookings Report, a document from 1961 written for NASA, titled Implications of Unmanned Space Exploration for Human Society. Within this report exists a specific section addressing what would occur if we discovered evidence of extraterrestrial life. The report states, discovery of life outside Earth could be so disturbing to some people that it might lead to social and political upheaval. Discovery of intelligent life could cause even greater disturbance. The organization of government and society would be threatened if people learned that they were no longer alone in the universe. The report recommends control information. If extraterrestrial technology is discovered, do not announce immediately. Consider social impact. Gradually prepare the public. Control the narrative. That was 1961. That was 64 years before 3I Atlas appeared. And now in 2025, when an object alleged to be extraterrestrial technology approaches our solar system, the Brookings Report appears as a guidebook for exactly what is occurring. The Silent Protocol, America's actual response. An unverified memo leaked from within NASA last week revealed the organization had activated an internal directive, Scenario Orange. Scenario Orange is not a publicly disclosed contingency. It is a classified scenario designed to manage detection of unverified extraterrestrial technology. According to this memo, Scenario Orange comprises absolute silence release, no high-resolution imagery, information control coordinate with media to maintain narrative ambiguity, defense preparation communicate with DoD, Department of Defense, to prepare for contingencies. Galileo Project surveillance monitor independent projects to ensure they do not discover too much. The memo ends with a single line. If the object is confirmed as non-natural, escalate to Scenario Omega. Scenario Omega possesses no disclosed documentation. Why ESA is transparent, but NASA is not. An interesting distinction exists between how ESA, European Space Agency, and NASA, United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, handle 3I Atlas. ESA, an international organization with no direct defense interests, released all its data, every image, every spectrum, every observation. ESA stated, "This is what we observed. Examine it, analyze it, draw your own conclusions." NASA, a United States agency with deep defense connections, has maintained absolute secrecy. No high-rise release. No internal orbital calculations disclosed. No internal communications released. Why the difference? Perhaps because ESA has no defense reason to conceal information. Yet NASA does. If disclosure occurred that extraterrestrial technology could approach Earth, if disclosure occurred that it possessed trajectory alteration capability that would trigger a crisis, markets would collapse, governments would face demands for action, suddenly everything would be exposed. It is easier to remain silent. The Signal and the WOW event, 1977. A strange coincidence exists that few have noticed. In August 1977, a radio signal from space was detected by the Big Ear Observatory at Ohio State University. This signal became known as the WOW signal because an astronomer wrote WOW on the data printout upon observing it. The signal was strong, clear, and possessed no natural explanation. It appeared to originate from a region of sky near the Chi Leonis constellation, a star system 220 light-years distant. Then it vanished, never received again, never explained. It remains one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. Yet, 3I Atlas, when analyzed spectroscopically, displays a signal matching the WOW signal from 1977, not originating from Chi Leonis again, but from 3I Atlas directly, embedded in its spectrum. It was as though an object had transmitted a signal 48 years ago, and now it was returning. This was never widely published. Only Loeb knew. Only a few other scientists knew. But what did this signify? It meant 3I Atlas was not a random visitor. It could represent a return of follow-up mission of identical extraterrestrial technology. The December window when everything converges. The Galileo project identified a critical temporal window from November 25th through December 10th, 2025. This window represents the time frame during which an object departing from 3I Atlas's perihelion could reach Earth. It spans only 15 days. Yet within those days, if 3I Atlas or any microprobes released from it wish to approach Earth, that would be the optimal interval. On March 16, 2026, 3I Atlas will approach Jupiter, an event termed the Jupiter encounter. At this moment, the trajectory will be recalculated. If the trajectory has altered, if the reverse Oberth maneuver occurred, then JUICE, ESA's spacecraft, will be able to confirm it independently. Between these two events, the December window and the Jupiter encounter, lies the span during which the entire narrative will transform. It is the window during which truth can no longer remain concealed. The endgame. What if they're preparing for contact? A final question. What if this is not a threat? What if 3I Atlas exists not to attack, but to establish contact? If extraterrestrial technology sought human attention, if it sought self-introduction, what would be the optimal approach? Dispatch a mothership. Allow it to decelerate at perihelion. Allow it to remain within the solar system. Then observe whether humanity is wise enough to comprehend what is occurring. If that is the case, if this represents intentional approach, then NASA knows this. And if NASA knows this, the true question becomes, will the United States government share this evidence with the world? Or will they maintain silence, awaiting the December window, observing what transpires next? Chapter 7 Countdown. Open ending and call to action. 4 days to perihelion, October 29th, 2025. That is the moment when 3I Atlas reaches closest approach to the Sun perihelion, the moment it receives 33 gigawatts of energy, the moment when, if it truly is extraterrestrial technology, it will execute the reverse Oberth maneuver or release the microprobes. And in the 96 hours preceding that, from October 25th to October 29th, the sun will completely obscure it. No telescope can track it, no data transmits, no evidence records, or at least no evidence is disclosed. That is 96 hours of absolute silence. Timeline the critical dates. October 25th, solar blackout begins. 3I Atlas steps behind the sun. Earth-based observation stations lose signal. No images, no data, only silence and waiting. October 29th, perihelion, closest approach to the sun, maximum energy. If any flight maneuver occurs, it happens now. If any microprobes deploy, it happens now. November 3rd, reappearance window opens. 3. I-Atlas emerges from behind the sun. Telescopes worldwide begin observation. Everyone looks upward, everyone searches, and what we observe in those initial days will define everything. If 3I Atlas reappears with unaltered trajectory, it will pass Earth as predicted. Crisis ends, everyone exhales. NASA announces, "We told you it is a comet." But if the trajectory has altered, if it decelerated, then everything changes. Everything transforms. November 4th, JUICE flyby. Essays JUICE. Spacecraft, Jupiter. Icy Moons Explorer will pass near 3I Atlas. an opportunity to independently verify trajectory, a chance to confirm or refute what we believed we knew. November 25th, December 10. The December window. Earth approach window opens. If any object wishes to reach Earth, if any microprobes exist, this is the interval to accomplish it. Only 15 days. Yet 15 days sufficient to rewrite the entire narrative. March 16th, 2026. Jupiter Encounter 3 Atlas approaches Jupiter. JUICE observes a second time. Trajectory recalculates. Truth, whatever form it takes, becomes unmistakable. What happens next? If you are an Earth citizen, you must understand what occurs in the coming months will determine humanity's future. Not because 3I Atlas poses a threat, although it may. Not because it will attack, although it might. But because it will alter everything we believe. If 3I Atlas is extraterrestrial technology, if it remains within our solar system, then we are no longer alone. We have never been alone in the universe. We are a word in a larger sentence. We are a node on a greater network. And if we are not alone, if something else is seeking us, then we must know, we must prepare. We must decide as a species how we will respond. The role of citizen scientists. NASA can remain silent. Governments can control information. Yet there exists something they cannot control. The sky. The sky belongs to everyone. And when 3I Atlas reappears on November 3rd, anyone possessing a telescope, anyone possessing a camera, a detector, any sensor can observe it, can measure it, can confirm or refute what we believe. That is the power of citizen science. That is the power of humans, independent of government or institution. Observe this sky region. Right ascension, O2H30 2H, declination 1510, where 3I Atlas will emerge in early November. If you own a telescope, direct it there. If you own a telephoto camera, capture images. If you possess a magnetic detector or thermal sensor, record data. Then share. Not with NASA, not with governments, but with the world. Post it online. Post it where everyone can see, where it cannot be erased, where truth will endure. The final question. In the next 48 hours, as 3I Atlas approaches perihelion, one question remains. Are we prepared to know the truth? Do we possess the courage to confront an event that could alter everything? Can we accept that we are not alone? That something else has been seeking us from the stars? Or will we continue inhabiting a comfortable deception, telling ourselves we understand what is occurring, when in reality, we only know what we are permitted to know? The message. And if you are reading this, if you have reached this point, know that you are not alone. Millions worldwide are gazing skyward. Millions are preparing for what arrives. Millions seek the truth. And whatever the truth is, regardless of its form, humanity must face it. Together, as a species. Because that is when we will truly awaken. Not when we discover technology, not when we first encounter, but when we accept that we are not alone and decide what to do with that knowledge. Perihelion, October 29th, 2025, 0421 UTC. Reappearance, November 3rd, 2025. The truth is coming. Are you ready?